All right, everyone. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Oliver Ross to the Future Picks podcast.
Thanks, Clarissa. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, you're somewhat of a legend, in my eyes at least, around the industry, particularly amongst KM Malta Airlines. And to start off, KM Malta Airlines launched operations on March 31st, 2024, along with its first flight from Malta International Airport to Catena, Sicily. With a lead time of less than 6 months, we at Branchspace were very excited to be part of this project and ensure that the new brand was ready with a website, mobile app, shopping experience, as well as ambitious plans for ancillary sales. So, about a year later, you joined the airline as head of loyalty and CRM, and you have vast experience across travel, hospitality, and aviation. So, my first question for you, Oliver, is why did you join KM Malta Airlines?
So, I wish I'd been there from the beginning, to be honest, because it really has been quite the journey that the airline has been on. To set up an airline in that time is really quite a feat. I joined because I saw a big opportunity to go and join a new airline and build a loyalty program. KM Malta Airlines has so much potential. Um, the airline itself serves both the local population and visitors to the Maltese Islands, both business and leisure. And they really have a fantastic product. The loyalty program is very different to the loyalty program that Air Malta had, which was KM Malta Airlines' predecessor airline, although the two are not connected. Um, Actually, the chance to come in and grow a loyalty program effectively from scratch, implement new functionality, and then be in control of developing the loyalty strategy, finding new ways to engage members, and really make sure that it was relevant to both those audience groups I described was too big an opportunity to pass up. I had been out of the airline industry for 5 years post COVID. I spent a bit of time in hospitality and in financial services, but always very closely linked to loyalty. So I guess you could say it was really just a case of waiting for the right time to re-enter the airline industry, and KM Malta Airlines was the right opportunity to do so.
Thank you so much for taking us through your journey to KM Malta. And so you mentioned that, yes, because KM is a new airline, I'm curious, why is loyalty important to new airlines such as KM? And what is your vision for the program?
So loyalty is a differentiator, but more importantly than just being a product differentiator, it delivers a number of things. So commercially for the airline, it provides a vehicle for communicating with customers. You tend to have higher marketing opt-in rates from members of a loyalty program. So then you can communicate better with those customers. You learn more about your customers because you can track their behavior, their flying patterns, the types of products that they purchase, etc. And you can enhance the passenger experience and particularly the loyalty journey for that member with that information that you know about them. And equally, it's important to actually give something back to our customers. Our customers are especially loyal. Not all of our customers are yet in the loyalty program, but we wanted to create a program that rewards both locals and visitors alike and says thank you for choosing KM Malta Airlines, whilst also making their flying experience better, whether that be through enhanced benefits in journey, or whether that be by having exclusive access to offers or making the booking experience easier because we remember details, and you can pre-populate those during the booking flow.
I really like what you said there about important to give something back to customers because the word itself, loyalty program, lends itself to thinking, okay, it's loyalty from the passenger standpoint, but how can we facilitate that as an airline to give back to them and show appreciation from your side as well, and not just through them being loyal, and belonging to the program.
Yeah, I mean, loyalty is an investment, and KM
Mhm.
Malta Airlines has chosen to invest in a loyalty program for all the reasons I've outlined. Um, and it is giving something back to those customers and saying thank you for flying with us. And if you fly with us more and you buy different types of products, then you will be rewarded even more. And we have a number of enhancements, which I'm sure we'll get into, which will further increase that two-way loyalty relationship, make our members even stickier in the program, which is great for everyone.
And thinking now we are only 6 months since you've joined, and the main functionalities and functions are live for the loyalty program. How did you decide where to start, especially to make it happen in this short period of time?
Yeah, I joined in February, and it really was a flying start. I thankfully had spent a bit of time sort of talking to the team already, so I knew what I was walking into. But ultimately, the program, when it started, it simply had to be there, but it didn't have all of the functionality. And I think the airline did a good job of communicating that with members, and sort of saying, look, we don't have everything yet, but there is a lot more coming. And so when I joined, I quickly realized that there were a lot of enhancements that need to be introduced and that we want to introduce. Actually, there's the requirement from a commercial perspective to start actually driving some revenue directly from the loyalty program. And from a member perspective, they want to be able to do something with their rewards, with their Skybucks. Skybucks are the currency of KM Rewards, our loyalty program. And whilst the enabling online redemption was a massive project, I knew that if we didn't start it and break it down and plan it properly, then it would just keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And what I wanted to avoid was, in the same way that so many things about KM Malta Airlines are different to that of its predecessor Air Malta, I wanted the loyalty program to be very different because we are a different airline. And with the Air Malta SkyPass program, FlyPass program, members had to call the call center to redeem. They had standard redemption availability, and a regular complaint, I gather, was never being able to find reward space. It's kind of a fairly common theme throughout the industry. And so the program that we have developed, it is revenue based, and we don't shy away from that. But actually that works for customers because they know exactly what rewards they have, and it's very easy to then redeem them. So that was a clear priority. But I also felt it was important to step back and figure out there's a number of key aspects. So first, we needed to grow the program. And in order to grow the program, I needed to give members a reason to join the program. So we needed to be a lot clearer on what the benefits were of the program. And there's still more that we can do to better communicate that, but we've made improvements. Then once we'd fixed sort of getting more people to join the program, we needed to give them clear evidence that being a member was worth it, and not just because they were building up Skybucks that at the time they couldn't easily redeem. They could redeem via the call center, but that's not the same as self-service. So we didn't shout about that. We did something I felt a really useful enhancement, and that was introduce the ability to log in during the booking flow. Now, at first, this idea I didn't really understand why we would do that before online redemption actually went live. But reflecting on it, I realized if we did that, then we're providing a benefit to customers because we could enable pre-population or automatic population of the required fields, thus shortening the booking time. And we've seen it. We've shaved, I think, something like 30 or 50 seconds off of the average booking time from start to finish, all when a member is logged in. And that's fantastic because that gives members time back and it gives them a reason to immediately see a benefit. I also realized that the way that the program was structured made it difficult for us to make changes and communicate those changes. The program, when it was initially set up, had a 12-month membership year based on the date that someone joined. But that meant that you had 365 different member years. And so trying to communicate changes to members and figure out what point in their membership year those changes should apply was going to create headaches further down the line. So I decided while we had a small membership base, it was better to make some fundamental changes to the structure of the program. So we set about doing that. We laid out very clear comms for customers, and we aligned all membership years to be the 1st of April through the 31st of March. We were as transparent as we could be and as fair as we could be by making sure that those members that were close to reaching the end of their membership year and or close to achieving the next tier in the program, we either proactively upgraded them or we deposited a sufficient number of status points to give them a leg up for the start of the new 12 months membership year on the 1st of April. So those were some sort of fairly fundamental changes off the bat, but I felt that they would set us up for success and allow us to really then turbocharge membership growth. And we're now at a point where we're growing the membership base 20% month on month.
I really thank you for that level of detail and the reasoning behind it as well, to explain that yes, there is commercial benefits and strategy behind this program, and we're not afraid to disclose those and admit that. But along with that, it's also driving customer experience, satisfaction, and personalization as well. So it's not a bad thing to have two in one, from my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely
And
agree. And I think customers actually, or our members really value the change that we made now that they've got used to it, because it's so much easier when they call our KM Rewards support team, because the KM Rewards support team can explain the same thing to everyone because they've all got the same membership year. So it's easier for customers to understand, it's easier for our teams to understand, and it's easier for us to facilitate managing the program. So it's a win-win for everyone.
yeah, especially from a scalability standpoint. I mean, that those figures you provided, month-over-month growth, is huge. So you want to foster and tech from the tech side, be able to accommodate that growth in a powerful way. And I wanna hone in on something specific, the Skybucks in particular. This is a relatively new activation or feature for the KM Rewards program. And essentially, KM Rewards members can instantly redeem Skybucks while booking. First, I would love to know what value travelers can expect from this program and what is different in comparison to, say, the prior features or even the prior airline itself.
Sure. So we have a very clear value for customers. Skybuck is worth €1 and members can redeem a minimum of €1 right up to 100% of the fare. They have to pay their taxes and charges separately by credit card, but fares and ancillaries, they can choose anywhere from €1 cent up to the full amount of the fare and of the individual ancillary items, and or any combination in between. So we have a very clear value proposition for our members. Some might say it's a little bit boring. There isn't variability in the value, but actually, with that comes transparency and easier understanding for members. It is different. It's different to how some airlines have implemented a revenue based program. Most airlines nowadays have a revenue based model where you earn based on your spend, but the redemption side is very dynamic. It's still based on standard redemption availability or the value that you get if you're redeeming in the booking flow, either in part or towards your purchase, ends up getting worse the more miles that you use. And that's not a great customer proposition. Let's be frank. I would much rather have a boring value or proposition that actually the everyday customer can understand. You shouldn't need a PhD in loyalty to understand how the loyalty program works for the average member. And so that's what we've created. We've got a very clear value and it's very easy to use. Now, you said that we've done everything now. I wish that was the case, but no. So we've implemented the ability to use Skybox in the booking flow. But later in the year, we will be implementing the ability to use Skybox when adding ancillaries in Manage My Booking. So that gives members the option to decide at a later point that they would like to use their Skybox to purchase a bag, to purchase a seat. And we're looking at other things that members would be able to utilize their Skybox for. But the principle will be that in the booking flow and in Manage My Booking, you will be able to use your Skybox for anything that you can buy in those channels.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I'd love to hear more about those enhancements in just a little bit. And the transparency aspect, it might sound boring, like you're right, but also it's good visibility for the customers because those they can change. And I remember you saying one of the goals of the program is to welcome both routine travelers or the more inconsistent one-off travelers. And in order to do that, I think we've both experienced where you go to book a flight with an airline for the first time in a while and you wonder, do I have any points available? I haven't checked my rewards, dashboard in a while. And all of a sudden, amount you had a year ago is actually worth less than the amount you have now is worth less than what it was a year ago. So it's good to have that consistency and always knowing whether you're flying every 3 months with KM or every 3 years, the value of your points or your Skybucks will remain the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And whilst our points do expire, we've been very generous with our expiry rules. So Skybucks expire in 2 years, but it's not an automatic 2 years, unlike some airlines. They only expire after 2 years if there has been no earn or burn activity. So as long as a customer has done something with the loyalty program, where they have earned a Skybuck or they have redeemed a Skybuck, their account remains completely active and their balance stays there forevermore.
Well, that's also great. Yeah, that allows you to tailor to those particular customer segments that we were just talking about. Uh, I would like to know what role you think loyalty will have in the larger digital retailing strategy for KM Malta Airlines. You had mentioned the future enhancements for Manage My Booking, but is there any other, say, digital channels or technological or even commercial goals that you have that the loyalty program will foster and propel?
Yes, certainly. So I think a key aspect is really developing our member portal. So at the moment, it has the basic fundamentals of a member portal. Rather, it has the key characteristics required of a member portal, but it's not terribly exciting. I think there's a lot more that we can do in that space to really personalize it to each member, based on their interests, based on their balance, and based on their tier. Um, Now, that account itself, I've given the example that we did a really early enhancement whereby if you log in the booking flow, it populates your details automatically from your member account. I think there's more details that can be stored that can help cut down that time even further. I'd love to explore sort of storing of potentially APIS details where it makes sense to do so. Some airlines do that. Potentially credit card details. There's obviously a lot of steps that need to go into working through whether those are the right decisions or not. And we might decide to do neither of them. But we have demonstrated that actually we can condense the booking time by pre-populating fields and giving a member that benefit. And I think that there's more room to do so. The In terms of the wider kind of commercial goals, I know from past experience that a member of the loyalty program is far more likely to engage with the brand, more likely to open the app, um, log in, book direct. And those are all behaviors that we want to see because those behaviors ultimately drive commercial performance. And so there are things within that I think that we can do in the digital channels to help drive more direct bookings, to help us increase the number of customers that are opted into marketing through the loyalty program itself. And I think that we can go further with my CRM hat on with personalization of communications and of offers that we provide to our members. And I think with my CRM hat, I look at both customers that are non loyalty members and I look at customers that are loyalty members. And we need to talk to them differently, but ultimately, a lot of their needs are very similar. And so we need to decide when and where we want someone to ideally be a loyalty member and what that experience looks like and what we offer to our base customers. And I think really where we've settled is that we deliver a really good customer experience for all of our customers. But if you're a loyalty member, you get an elevated experience.
Okay. Okay. I love that. And everything you just discussed is a very customer centric approach, which I know is very dear to your heart and important. So, and has been very advantageous for you throughout your career. So it's awesome to hear that you're continuing that and bringing it into this program itself. And also that it's able to contribute to those commercial goals that you mentioned. And you touched on this a bit earlier, but I'm going to ask the official question, Oliver, of what new developments do you see coming up for KM Rewards?
Yeah, so obviously there's manage my booking, which I think will result in reduced calls to the call center. It will provide greater self-service for our members because they'll be able to redeem their Skybucks whenever they want, as opposed to between the hours of the call center is open. But just being able to redeem with the airline is one thing. What I'm particularly excited about, but I'm not going to give you an exact time frame as to when, because there's a number of moving pieces. We are looking at a number of initiatives to allow members to earn and burn outside of the airline, and also for members to join without having ever flown with the airline and without necessarily having a flight booked with the airline. What I describe, we're working with both Branchspace and with our loyalty platform provider, East2, to develop a marketplace in Malta. And that marketplace will cater to both visitors and to locals alike. And allow them to engage with the program outside of flying. Now, in addition to that, and that really is very exciting. It's not a traditional coalition loyalty program model or anything like that. It really is new. I'm not going to spoil the surprise as to how it works or go into that detail. But when the time comes and you see it, think it. I hope and I think you'll be quite impressed with the structure of it, and also how simple it is for members to use. In addition, I'm implementing what I would call some hygiene factors of a travel loyalty program. These are things like the ability to transfer into the program from other loyalty programs and to be able to collect Skybucks with other travel partners that are outside of flying but complementary to flying. We don't have anything signed yet, so I'm not going to divulge, but they're the sort of typical travel partner elements that you would normally find in a loyalty program. We've also launched a status match campaign and partnership with Loyalty Status Co. So Loyalty Status Co. Are a third-party platform. They're specialists in what they do. In fact, I think pretty much every employee of Loyalty Status Co. has run a loyalty program or worked for a loyalty program. So they understand the pain points of both getting high quality members and retaining high quality members. So we started the status match campaign to attract people to join the program that maybe that are tied into another loyalty program that frequently travel to and from Malta. And that's a barrier potentially to them traveling more with KM Malta Airlines. So we've removed that barrier with a paid status match. And then we're looking at a number of additional products with Loyalty Status Co. that will allow us to help further engagement with those members. And when it comes to, for instance, a point at which maybe they're not going to maintain their tier, maybe they're going to drop tiers. And we're looking at what we can do there to give them an incentive to carry on and to reclaim the tier that they used to have, all in a very sort of customer friendly way.
Okay, well, I'm really glad that I asked that question, follow-up question about the enhancements, because that's a lot and it's all really great to hear. The marketplace is very, very fascinating, and I look forward to receiving more updates on it because being able to use your Skybucks beyond, even if you've never don't have a fare booked with KM or you've never had a flight booked with KM, is a very big differentiator, and I think a use case that can be applied for a lot of passengers and potentially be an additional entry point for new members as well. So that paired along with, that status match and the hygiene factor really creates a holistic approach to, like you said, obtaining and retaining those high quality members.
Yeah. And from a commercial perspective, all of those initiatives will help deliver commercial returns for the airline, help the loyalty P&L, and give us a lot more insight into those customers. And with those insights, we can do more interesting things, more tailored marketing, deliver more personalized products and experiences. And I think that that's what I find so exciting about loyalty is that the benefits of loyalty extend far beyond that of just the loyalty program itself.
Yeah, that's a really good point to end on. If we take a step back in your career to look at your work at Visa and Hilton, did any lessons from these roles maybe influence your approach to KM Rewards, especially in shaping a more dynamic, retail inspired loyalty program?
Yeah, I think my time at Hilton, I'd actually been a diamond member with Hilton for a number of years. They were my go-to hotel brand for business and leisure travel. So working for them was extremely exciting, but it also gave me a lot of great insight. The fact that I had a lot of member experiences myself. Hilton does a lot of things well with their loyalty program. And I definitely learned some lessons about the types of behavior that are generated by members as a result of the setup of the program and the features of the program and that kind of thing. Um, and then at Visa, I was able to work with lots of different loyalty programs and had exposure not just in airlines, which is my background, or hotels, which is sort of my interest, and obviously having worked at Hilton, but I was looking at supermarket retail. I was looking at clothing retail. I was looking at rideshare, airlines, hotels, car rental, anywhere that a loyalty program existed. We were even looking at sports co-brand opportunities and how you can develop a loyalty proposition either with a co-brand or without a co-brand, and how you can use data from Visa to drive a lot of that. So at Visa, I had exposure to programs from across lots of different industries, from airlines to hotels, of course, which are my specialty, but also to retail, from supermarket to fashion to sporting, rideshare, energy, you name it, I probably looked at it. And I think that was really interesting because I got to see really good examples of loyalty programs done right, examples where loyalty programs haven't done something right. And we don't get everything right at KM Malta Airlines. Um, as an airline, you always have certain challenges. And I think um, having obviously every company, every business has challenges, but the hospitality sector was definitely easier in as much as there wasn't quite so much in the way of integration. Whereas with an airline, you've got your PSS, and what goes in to the booking then needs to flow through to DCS. You've then got all the staff that need to understand that what's printed on the boarding pass and what scans on the boarding pass QR code. Got the digital boarding pass. Like there's just so many elements. Plus, then all the different suppliers and your own data warehouse. There's a lot of complexity, and if things don't get set up correctly and designed correctly, there are unintended consequences of that. Far more so than in a number of other industries, which I think is what makes aviation particularly exciting and also frustrating at the same time. And so we can't always design a really smooth, simple customer proposition or customer journey because we have technical limitations that just don't allow us to do that. And I speak on behalf of the airline industry with that. However, there are ways in which we can make those improvements. We can do certain things with UX and UI, and we can look at the experience holistically. And it's also about how we communicate a lot of that to customers, and really making sure that the digital experience, which the customer encounters before the physical customer experience at the airport and in flight, that needs to mimic the brand. It needs to be a kind of a window into the brand, and it needs to set out really clear values for customers and demonstrate what that experience is going to be like when you translate it into the physical. And so I think I learned quite a lot at Hilton in that sense, because I think Hilton does a really good job of that. And in the same way that Hilton requires ways to, or struggles with ways to engage with members outside of stays, airlines struggle with the same thing outside of flying. So that's where the marketplace, I think, will be particularly exciting and be different. Hilton has lots of different partners and lots of different ways to earn Hilton Honors points. We're doing something a little bit different whilst also maintaining those hygiene factors.
You did talk a bit about technology and the complexity of the airline industry, the amount of vendors and integration dependencies required. So, in your opinion, how does delivery compare to those prior experiences? It was more complicated, or was there points where it was also less complicated?
So it's a mixed bag. I think we benefit from the fact that KM Malta is a relatively small airline. But just because we're small doesn't mean we don't have the same complexity as larger airlines, because we still need to run an airline and we need to retail the way that other airlines retail, etc. We just have less people to be able to facilitate all of that. So it's more complex than other industries. But I think one of our advantages is if we get in a room and we figure out what the right steps are, we can then move pretty quickly. And I speak across both KMMA and Branchspace in that respect. So, as a really good example, we got together in beginning of June in your offices in Krakow, and we looked at the online redemption project, and we looked at all the steps required between where we were, the decision points that still needed to be made, the technology connections or APIs that needed to be tweaked or enabled. And then we sort of mapped that out and worked backwards from when we would be looking to launch and what time was required for each step. I think we've learned quite a lot from that experience. Getting together in person does make a difference. We have regular check-ins, and we're very good at picking up the phone and emails and having regular meetings. But actually spending the time in a dedicated workshop where you're focused purely on that topic can actually mean that you end up with a better result, rather than when you're flicking from meeting to meeting to meeting. So that's something that we've committed to, that we're doing those regular workshops when required, to make sure that we're aligned and that we can deliver seamlessly together.
Can you mention one or two technical milestones that were the most critical to ensure a smooth and invisible redemption experience?
Yeah, I think the having the functionality in the test environment, we got that a good 5-6 weeks before we actually launched the enhancement and went live. And that allowed us to take the visuals from the sort of UX sign off that had been months ago, and actually start understanding, how does this really work? Because we've had this idea, we know the technical components, but there's nothing like actually being able to go through and move that slider for the very first time in the test environment, and then being able to, once they'd figured out the payment side, and that had then been released into the test environment, actually being able to issue a ticket, and being able to have paid for that ticket using that mixture of Skybox and a credit card. So I think that was important. Obviously, the release notes make a big difference, and then having the ability to switch it on, switch it off. We worked collaboratively on that. We needed to make some fine tuning adjustments, and then we were making live bookings. So we didn't tell anyone we were switching it on purpose, but we switched it on, and then I got my own credit card out, and I added some Skybucks to my account, and I was using a mixture of both and trying different currencies and what have you. And that was exciting, having the test environment and then the actual handover in the live environment, and then being able to check it end to end from a customer perspective. Now, it wasn't just me. Lots of different people were testing various different things, but having been so involved in the project, and having looked at it both strategically and sort of all the different elements of the project, being able to be the first person to actually make a live booking was very exciting.
Yeah, I bet it was. Some of us call it the friends and family testing. So it's when you get to pass it around to all your friends and family and ask for their feedback. And that element of the testing environment, the approach or the angle you took from it, being from a customer perspective, I really like, because it's very routine, it's very common practice and best practice to test any new releases or deliveries, but it's often seen from a technical standpoint, like what are the bugs that need to be worked on or what's not quite ready yet. And your point was maybe there is a feature that's operating correctly, but doesn't feel right from, a customer experience standpoint. And so that again ties into some of those emotional factors of it's not always about are the I's dotted and are the T's crossed, but is it fostering that emotional satisfaction and that seamless customer experience that you're ultimately going for.
Yeah, I mean, even down to really boring, but actually very important things like tweaking the error message when something has gone wrong. We've tested all sorts of different things, but actually, when there were errors for whatever reason, we need to be able to give customers a clear explanation and also tell them how they can then complete their booking. So there could be an instance where the skybucks have been deducted, but there was a credit card failure for whatever reason. The booking has therefore been created, but they need to know that in order to be able to actually fly, they need to complete the booking by making a payment, and they can do that offline if they have to. So we added the phone number. Now that sounds stupid, but actually things like that, rather than the generic something went wrong, we've delivered very clear signposting as to how we can then make it right.
Exactly. And in such a competitive industry, it doesn't take you only need one bad digital experience element to deter a passenger from confirming or converting fully and completing the purchase. And it's good that you're taking those considerations into mind. And I would like to pivot a bit. We've touched on this here and there. And as we know, Branchspace, we don't just see ourselves as a technology provider, but we want to ensure that we deliver value for our customers and teams, such as Oliver's teams, and really go the extra mile to make things happen, really, whatever it takes. And so, Oliver, in your opinion, I'd love to know what is your take on our partnership between Branchspace and KM Malta Airlines?
So I think ever since we actually got in a room together, um, and I can only speak from when I joined, but I noticed a real shift because we got to know the team very well over 3 days, and we came up with some new ways of working. And I think only by working in the existing ways and realizing that actually there were some things that maybe weren't working as well as they could, we then tried to understand what does each side need and how can we support each other better. And I think we ended up delivering the project in a very different fashion to how it may have started prior to me joining. And that's not down to me, it's down to simply the point at which I had joined. The project had started a long time ago. Um, we focused the project, and then that time together, going through the detail, really helped with the outcome. The other thing that I'll say is when we did sort of do those live tests and then switched it off to make sure that everything was working properly before formally switching it back on, um, we were doing testing over the weekend, and I was very grateful to the Branchspace team for making themselves available, to being there to switch the functionality on and off, to be able to look and troubleshoot when I was testing different things and trying to figure out where the issues lay that needed to be corrected. And they're only minor things, but we needed to get it right before we then launched for our customers. So thank you to the team for that. The other thing that was a really pleasant surprise, and I don't think we'd actually discussed. We kind of said, oh well, there will be some analytics, but we didn't have time to look at what those analytics look like, and I wasn't too worried because I knew that I would be able to see lots of reporting on the redemption side through our loyalty data and through our booking data. But after we went live, the team presented to me a cash plus miles dashboard in Amplitude, and that cash plus miles dashboard, it's becoming very addictive. I can refresh it no more than once every like 15 seconds or something. And I must admit, those first couple of days, I was there clicking refresh, um, and I can see the percentage of bookings that um, online redemptions are making up. I can see the types of products, the ancillary products someone's bought. I can see the routes that are most popular. There's a whole bunch of things in there that the team delivered because they felt it was important that we had early access to reporting that we wouldn't see ourselves. And it makes sense because Branchspace can see all of that because of the website, and they've been transparent and been able to share that with us. And I'm using that in our management reporting. Um, it's extremely helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll give a silent kudos to both Branchspace and KM's team because it is very, very much so a group effort. And thank you for outlining that, especially the different components. And yeah, it's one thing to deliver a feature or to deliver a new digital experience, but is is it effective? Is it working? And how do you measure success? So that dashboard sounds incredibly helpful, and we look forward to seeing, the results of those and how that will initiate continual enhancements and experimentations and optimizations down the road.
Yeah, and I must say, I think the way that it was designed and delivered, customers were so conditioned to logging in because of the pre-population of details that they then got to the payment, or the sort of confirmation, or the review page, and they saw a slider. And like, well, what's this? So they started playing around with it, and we are seeing redemptions being made from members of every single tier with low balances, high balances. And we were so impressed with the percentage of bookings that were coming in that were using Skybox, either in part or in full, from literally the evening we went live. And that percentage has not dropped since then. If anything, it has grown because we've now promoted it. But it's something that we're looking forward to building on as our members become more aware of it and they realize that it's another reason to join the loyalty program, and all of the great benefits that come with it. But thank you to Branchspace for the support with getting it live. It really is a step change in our loyalty program.
That's so cool that you're already seeing those early patterns and insights. I was thinking about asking you about that earlier in our conversation, but I wasn't sure if it was too early, too few days post launch to notice insights. And what do you know? You already are and can already start making adjustments according to those behaviors and trends that you've seen in the dashboard. So, Oliver, just a couple more questions. We Having just launched this innovative loyalty program, in a couple words, can you tell us what's next?
Sure. So it will be around membership growth, will be engagement, the different touch points, and we'll be tracking things on the website and sort of engagement within the loyalty program itself. And revenue, it always has to come down to revenue. So we want to see that incrementality that loyalty is delivering and will continue to deliver and grow. And the growth of our marketing database. Because with the growth of our marketing database, I can use my other hat in CRM and develop more CRM capabilities. But if we don't have the members that we can communicate to, or the customers opted into marketing, there's no point in having those enhanced functionalities. So we're taking a two-pronged attack there to make sure that we enhance our own capabilities internally, but we're also giving our customers reasons to become members and reasons to become loyal members.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. If there's any last minute words you'd like to say to our audience today, please do so, and then we'll wrap things up.
Great. Well, thank you. I think all that's kind of left to say is that loyalty programs are particularly vital for a lot of businesses. But what's very important is not to work in silos. And I think that what we have delivered and are delivering is only possible because we're working very closely together and with our other partners, whether that be Sabre, East2, um, others like Loyalty Status Co, etc. That by planning everything out, and really taking the time to understand the scoping, we end up with a better quality product when it actually comes to launch. So definitely something that I've seen in practice, with the most recent project we've done. So thank you.
Thank you so much for those words. And that is it for everyone today as the Future Picks podcast. I want to thank Oliver again, head of loyalty and CRM at KM Malta Airlines. So, with that, everyone, we'll catch you next time for another episode of Future Picks.
Thanks, Clarissa. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.